with Intention, podcast where we bring you stories from around the globe. Hello and welcome to another episode on Rise and Thrive Mornings with Intention. And I am here today with Dinalynn Rosenbush. Welcome to our show. I'm so glad to have you here with us.
Thank you very much, Eva. Um, Eva.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. Yes, this is lovely. I am so glad to be on your Rise and Thrive podcast.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And please tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from currently and things like that.
Okay, so thank you. So I am from Minnesota, and it's cold out here today. And I have grandchildren. My third one is going to be born here this next month. So I've got little grandchildren, adult children. And yeah, and that's a little bit about me, a speech pathologist by trade, and now doing a business on the side here.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And
Yeah,
that's definitely exciting with baby coming soon. So yeah, lots
it's
of
very
fun.
fun. It's very fun being a grandparent.
So let's jump into what you do. I'm sure everybody's eager to hear more about it. So can you please share the story of what actually inspired you to become a speech language pathologist and eventually a parenting coach?
Well, thank you. That is a story that isn't quite remarkable at the beginning because I was in college and I just kept on taking these classes and I didn't have a major declared. And finally, one of the professors from this department came up to me and said, "You know, you've taken nearly all of our classes. Would you like to be a speech pathologist? That's what we're doing." And so I went on then for my schooling in that field. Like I just didn't really have a vision. I just took classes I enjoyed, and lo and behold, I was here. So that's how I decided. It's a weird way to decide, but that's how I decided. And then when I got done with college, then I got a job in the school system and realized I like it. It's fun to work with children and it's fun to work with parents. I did that for 30 years. And then I had a big illness with late stage Lyme disease. And I was in bed for nearly 2 years, being very, very
Mm.
sick. Yeah. And, but I came through that. And then while I was in bed, I started thinking, well, what am I going to do next? And I started thinking, how can I do the parts of my job that I love, excuse me, which is working with parents and kids? And how can I ditch the part that I don't like, which is that rigid schedule and all that paperwork? And I thought I could start my own practice and I can help parents know how they can help their kids at home. And during my time as a speech path, I had been sampling in this for like the last 15 years of my work, bringing parents into my classroom with me every week to work with me with their kids. And of the parents that were able to do that, we had tremendous success. So it was kind of a natural fit.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like right from the beginning you have been just guided, and there was like no resistance. You just went into it and it was just naturally unfolding. Where I hear like some people go into it, they don't like it, they try something, they get all frustrated, they start again. Here it just seems like just flow, except for the part where you were sick for quite some time. But we're so glad you are okay now and thriving.
Thank
So
you.
that's really important.
Yes, thank you very much.
Welcome. So, you also have a podcast. What motivated you to start the Language of Play podcast, and what has been the most rewarding part of hosting it?
Both of those are really good questions, too. So, starting it was really the transition time between thinking, how can I help parents? And not really knowing what my energy level was going to be, not really knowing how well I was going to be, not really knowing my future because of this illness. And I thought, I could start a podcast. I can do that from my home. I can do that. And then I was giving out value. And so that's how it got started. And then I thought, I'm just going to try to see if I like it. Well, it's fun, as you know. That's why you're doing podcasting too. It
Yeah.
is fun. And the rewarding part is, well, one part that's really rewarding is having interviews. I love giving interviews too. It is super fun to meet people, ask them questions, listen to people tell their stories. Like you, I enjoy that part. There is a part that I just recently started to experience, and that is having somebody get a hold of me in tears with gratitude for the help that they had in their family. And even having somebody meet me in public and grab me and hug me with tears over the help that they had with their children. And so that's like a new wow, because I haven't ever had that level of response. I've
Mhm.
had questions that I've answered, and I've offered more support, but I haven't until now, maybe because there's enough episodes, but until now, I haven't had somebody like pump into tears with gratitude over the help. And so that's like super heartwarming, and it happened twice this month. And yeah, so that's kind of a new favorite, isn't it?
Definitely. Wow, that's amazing. Look at the difference you're making already. Well,
That,
in
yeah,
many
that
years.
feels that feels really, really good. It's very affirming to keep going forward, because sometimes in podcasting, as you know, you can go for long periods of time and nobody says anything. You don't know who you're talking to, who's listening. You look at the download numbers and people are listening, but nobody says a word. And that can be
Mhm.
hard. It can be hard to keep going when you get no response. So this kind of response was very uplifting and encouraging, that yes, it's worthwhile to keep going. People care.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even if somebody doesn't stumble upon it now, maybe in like 5, 10 years, your podcast can touch somebody's life then, things change all the time, but it's great
Mhm.
to have that value, adding that value to communities, right? It
Right.
makes
And
a
I
huge
know the
difference.
value is there because I know those strategies are things that I use and I know they work. So I just inviting parents, listen and do. Yeah, I know it works.
Exactly. So of course we'll share the links of how people can find your podcast. What are you on? Are you on Spotify?
Oh, I'm on every player, and I have a new celebration. I've reached top 1.5 global ranked podcast. So,
Oh,
yeah,
congratulations.
thank you. So that's a new celebration too.
Oh, that's awesome. I wish I
Thank
had a
you.
button or something that I can do. Oh, wait, I think I can. Yeah, they party.
Yay! Oh,
I'm
look at
not
this
very good at.
celebration on the Zoom. I love it.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Um,
Thank you.
so congratulations on that, and I'm sure
Thank
you're
you.
gonna have many, many more people reach out to you in the future as well. So, let's look at the children now a little bit. Insights on communication and parenting. What are some common misconceptions parents have about how children communicate?
Another good question. And that one, I think, what I see most that is hindering parents is that parents tend to think that kids think like they think. For example, if a child answers using whatever words they say, um, if I had said those words, I would have thought X, whatever that is. But children don't have the same motivation, they don't have the same understanding, and they don't have the same cause effect relationship as we do. They just don't have enough life experience to know yet. So when a parent looks at a child, for example, with a temper tantrum, or they're falling in misery with their crying, they tend to think, boy, if I cried that hard, my emotions would be so impained. So my child must be in so much emotional pain. Therefore, I'm going to satisfy his emotional pain. When the truth is, um, that's the way they communicate sometimes. Simply, it's part of, they have no uh, self-regulation to be able to validate what is going on with these emotions. They do feel their feelings really big because it's the biggest thing they felt so far, isn't it? They
Mhm.
don't have enough life experience to know that, oh, this is a disappointment because I got the blue cup instead of the pink cup. It's not a big deal. We're thinking, oh my gosh, it's that important to them. It's not. It's how they express it because they don't understand how to process disappointment yet. It's all part of the process. So I would answer that with thinking our kids have the same thinking that we think. They don't.
Yeah. I'm smiling because I know it all. I have a 6-year-old.
Oh,
And
you do know
so,
exactly what I'm talking about.
oh yeah. And as a coach too, like, I try different approaches and things like that, but it's you can learn and keep learning and try to keep up with them. It's not easy.
Right. And as a coach, I bet you use some of the relational topics and the methods to try to get the child to be rational and think logically and separate the heart and the mind. Now let go in the heart, like all the things. But kids don't operate there yet,
Nope.
especially as a 6-year-old. Like if you're thinking brainwave frequency, and as a coach, you probably understand beta, theta, delta. She is operating in alpha. Beta's you and I now, but her best operating right now is alpha. She doesn't generally get to beta as a 6-year-old. That is going to, I mean, she probably does sometimes because it happens more close to 7. So we've
Mhm.
got, totally different brain activity. And so to learn how our children actually think and what they understand is is key to being able to bring them playfully to their next learning moment. It's
Definitely.
not the way we think.
No, and it takes a lot of like patience and understanding. And I watch her, as I was got into personal development, I was like, you know, yes, she's a reminder of me going back into my childhood, so even I can get over things faster. But then it's a learning from me and vice versa. So there's a lot of learning on two different ends, but reading help children help books definitely does help.
And isn't it interesting too, as an adult, when we start watching our kids and we start to understand from that perspective of the child within us is learning, and we watch them and we realize how much they don't quite understand in the right way. And then we realize, oh, I learned that when I was 4 years old. I bet I didn't understand it in the right way. you know,
Hmm. Yeah,
it helps.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So how can parents integrate speech and language development strategies into their daily routines without feeling overwhelmed?
Ah, that's a great question too. You're full of good questions.
I try.
Yeah. So I would say that it depends what it is you're working on. And so I'm just going to take a couple scenarios like I have so far because I don't know who my listener is at this moment. But let's say that you are trying to teach your children how to say certain sounds. And let's say the word cup, they're saying tup or something like that. Then when you're actually doing dinner and there is a cup present, you take a pause. So you got 1 or 2 seconds where you're going to call the child's attention and you're going to work on that sound. And working with me, you'll get the strategies how, but like work on that sound for 1 or 2 seconds, and then you move on. And then throughout your meal, allow that word to come up again and again and again in your conversation. And you give a second or two, and then you give a second or two. So that would be one way to put it into regular living if it's a speech sound. If your child has, for example, maybe some pronoun errors, they say him do it or her do it instead of he does it and she does it, then when they're talking, you repeat back to them what they should have said as you acknowledge and validate what they said. So they say her do it. You're right, she does it. So you acknowledge yes and validate, and then you say the correct form. Um, yeah, so things like that. Does that answer your question, sort of?
Well, definitely. And it's funny because my next question was actually give us some examples, and you did that. So that was wonderful because sometimes doing the same thing over and over again just doesn't help. You need new eyes, new ears, and some new
Mm-hmm.
activities, right? Because I get bored. Why wouldn't the child get bored, right? So
Right.
we need new ways of doing things. So that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So what role does a parent's communication style play in a child's emotional and linguistic development?
The parent's communication style
Mhm.
could be, I suppose, um, I'm thinking of parenting styles right now, assuming that's what you mean. So if a parent is more authoritative or helicopter, all of that, is that what you're referring to? How
Mhm.
that impacts the children's communication development?
Yes.
Okay. So some what we see commonly nowadays is there's a fear in our world. How is it that my child is going to be safe in the world? Like we have this focal point on safety. And although safety is important, we do have to remember that fostering courage is really important for our children to be able to venture out. So the helicopter type of parenting, the one that is watching over, maybe it's not called helicopter anymore. There's another, like I looked up not too long ago some different terms for parenting, and there were like 40. It was unbelievable
Wow.
how many different terms people have created for different styles of communicating with your child or parenting your child. And and the first thought I had was, this has got to feel really messy for a mom or a dad to know where they are if they're trying to label themselves and who they want to become if they're trying to categorize, because that sometimes helps us to learn. But it just, it's like it's too much. It was information overload for me, and I'm not currently parenting with a question about parenting, right? So I think that, like when we want to develop our children's communication skills, the most important thing would be to go into relationship, backpedal, and consider, how am I relating with this child? Are we building this trust bond? Are we building a love bond? Am I ushering them towards the direction I want them to go? And if I am controlling everything they're doing, can I step back? And one of the ways I like to do that and teach parents to do that is letting your environment remind the child. So, for example, okay, here's an example. Let's say your child isn't rinsing the toothpaste down the sink after they spit when they're brushing their teeth. Okay? You can make, for young children, a picture chart. For older children, maybe a word written chart, so that the environment reminds them that they're done when they're done. Sometimes it's a picture of a room that's cleaned and it's already done, so they can compare. And then your only question to the child would be, oh, did you finish? And they'll say yes. Did you do everything on the list? And they'll have to stop and think. And you say, go check yourself. And so you
Hmm.
put that control back on the child instead of doing the controlling from outside. So you're helping the child develop those kind of skills to be able to say, oh, I did do the steps. And then the relationship piece between you and them is helpful. You're helping them do what they need to do. And it doesn't become between you and them. Instead, they can get an argument with that piece of paper on the wall that's reminding them if they don't like it. That's where they can put their argument. And they do. They will.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Oh, they
Of course.
definitely do.
And then they might mark it up and all this, but that's okay. Just use a piece of paper that you can write on, throw away, and write on it again. Next piece of paper. It's fine.
Definitely.
So the relationship between you and them stays steady, and the frustration can be between that list and the child. Therefore, they learn to have the responsibility of their own body and self and space and time.
Hmm.
So when you get, now getting back to your question, when you ask about the style of the parent and the child's communication development, if you are not helping your child at all, they're floundering. They like the guidance. They need the guidance. They will feel much more secure and stable with the guidance. But if you're swinging to the other direction, where there's so much control that you're telling them everything and you're peppering every question along the way. Did you get it all in the sink? Did you rinse down the toothpaste? Did you wipe out the sink? Like da 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 da. Then you're dismantling that relationship that you're actually trying to build. So it's about that balance.
Hmm.
And your
Okay.
personality of your child and your personality are not going to be the same as my personality and my child. So there is this figuring out where the puzzle is for you two. And it can be a beautiful journey.
Definitely makes me think to a lot of things back just for you talking about it. But it's true, even myself, I grew up in a completely different environment. And of course, some of these things we pick up as habits and they stay with us. And there was times I remember then my little one would be doing so, and I would get into that, well, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, whoa. And I had that awareness right away. It's like, ooh, I'm doing what was done to me when I was little. I'm like, mm-mm. I said, so in my mind, of course, I stopped. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, how can I approach this from a different angle? So, A, I'm not getting frustrated and I'm not frustrating her or
Yeah.
something similar, like whatever the situation is. So I trained myself over time to actually, stop. And it's like, mm-mm, the situation is maybe getting out of hand or it's not going the way I was thinking. So I stop and kind of like take my 2, 3 seconds. I'm like, okay, how can we change this, turn it around, or make it better for both of us,
I
And it's
love to hear you
surprisingly,
say that.
Yeah, it does help. It does help, but it comes with awareness, and it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, but stop, give it like 3 seconds, sometimes more, and realign. It definitely,
Yeah.
sometimes it's needed. And kids are full of energy and yeah, so
I love to hear you say that. Part of my coaching program, it has a segment in it titled You Are Not Your Parent. For that very reason. All of us have a default that is what our parents did. And
hmm
then when we become aware, like you're saying, we step back and say, oh man, that's not who I want to be or how I want to do this type of thing. And then you have a decision to make.
hmm
And that decision has to come with some ideas, doesn't it? You have to have some ideas to stick in that next slot of what do I do next? Because if you don't have another idea, you're going to continue the only ideas you have.
That's right.
And yeah, it's a process. And then you try something different and you realize that didn't work and you try something else and then you find what does.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then you just tell us
Yeah.
next time will be better.
Yeah. And sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't,
Yeah,
but eventually it is. And so,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
But it's fun. It's definitely teaches us a lot about ourselves too. Not just us being the mom and teaching them, but it teaches our strengths and weaknesses along the way. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. And it
So,
sounds like you're doing a fine job.
well, we try, right?
We all do. We all do. And I've got my grandkids now. And it's funny when I raised my kids, I think I grew up with them because they shine a spotlight on the parts of me that still need to grow up. And then I thought, okay, my kids are adults now and we're all doing pretty good. Then grandkids come along and they shine a spotlight on what's left,
Mm,
what's still remaining. And I'm like, oh, huh, that's still in there. And I need to deal with a new layer of that which is in within me.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I know some kids, and I've seen it, and some have speech delays or they're nonverbal. How do you recommend parents handle communication challenges with children who go through that? At, yeah.
Yeah, I it depends on the age, of course,
hmm
and I always recommend that you have a speech pathologist do an evaluation whenever possible because they will be able to give you for sure answers right now. When I have a child that comes to me and I actually physically see that child and work with them for a little bit, that is clear answers, a lot of the time, most all the time. So if a child has a communication delay, if a child is struggling, by all means, do that. And then I add on to that, get yourself help so that at home you can move forward in your relationship with your child, in your direction giving, in helping them to be able to listen better, in knowing how to connect with them in a way that they can learn. And that isn't always able to be done with your speech language pathologist. I think you and I had a conversation prior to recording that tells in the United States anyway, and I think it's worldwide, our speech pathologists, we don't have enough to meet the need. And I know that in the United States, we're very short speech paths per need. And it's not going to change anywhere in the near future, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the NIH. So since we're looking at that, your speech pathologist is going to be going from student to student to student and trying to help students and as many as she can and as fast as she can. So how are you going to get the help you need? And I really think that that second step is parents learning how to do some of these things at home so that we can shorten the therapy time so you can calm your home and be a little more peaceful and productive. Because when you have a child with a communication delay, there are frustrations that happen because of the lack of communication that can be pretty bold. And then, so programs like mine, where you can be empowered to know how to apply strategies, change how you interact just a little bit maybe, or a lot depending on the needs of your child, so that your home life isn't so chaotic. It doesn't feel so tense, so sad, because it doesn't need to.
Exactly. Yeah, and I've seen, some people get really, the parents get sad because their children, the child might be delayed. They get anxious. They worry what people are gonna say, or blame, oh, you did this, or that's why your child is like that. So there can be 101 ways, people are thinking, it's not just the child, but even the parent, they feel their frustration. And sometimes you can tell, and it's like, how can we help them, right? So I'm so glad there are teachers, mentors like yourself, who specialize in this because it is needed out there.
It is. It is. It's not yet something that is grabbed a hold of with two hands, where parents realize, oh, I should get the help also to do stuff at home. Because here's what happens. Here's the truth of it. I've been a speech path, and I know that when a parent comes to me and they say something and it's the last 5, 10 minutes of a session, I say, do this and this and this and this and this. And in that moment, a parent knows clearly what I'm saying. But they walk out of my room, they drive home, they start making supper, and then they think, what did she say to me? And at that point, they don't know. And so, what I've learned is that if you give parents one little nugget at a time and you say, I want you to do exactly this, and I'll see you next week. And it's so small that they can hold on to it through the drive home, through all the changing thoughts and activities, through supper time, and it's small enough that they can implement it. And then they practice that one little implement all week long. The next week, you give them that much more, one more little nugget, and then they get to stack it. And it will take 5 weeks to get to what you just said in that first day, but in 5 weeks, they'll have it all. So that stacking and that learning one small piece at a time is super effective for how our brains work, even as adults, because our world is busy. Our lives are busy. And you know as well as I do, if you get a litany of things to do, and I'm guilty, I said that when I first started as a teacher, I did that to parents. Um, so it's easy to do, but at the same time, I know that's not the most effective. So I'm hoping that over time here, parents will realize, oh, I need to get some help in this too. And I need to learn these strategies too, because ultimately, whether your child has a delay or not, these strategies work because they're brain-based strategies.
Hmm. Definitely. And I love that the little nuggets of and the climbing up the ladder, or however you want to put it in those terms. But it is really important to give it little bit by bit because yeah, sometimes we get overwhelmed. It's like, you know what, I'm just gonna throw in the towel, and then you become more frustrated, miserable, whatever you want to call it, right?
Oh,
So
yeah. I'm the
it
same way when it comes to a field I'm not familiar with.
yeah, yeah, we have to give ourselves time. Like my mom always says, nothing was built overnight, right? For the most part, right? They used to say that back in the war days.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah. So, and the older we get, if we don't really study personal development, not really keen on awareness, and we're constantly on autopilot, giving somebody a big chunk of things to do, for the most part, they're just gonna run the other way because
Mhm.
they're not used to it, right?
I
Um,
do the same thing.
yeah,
If I become overwhelmed, I can't do anything.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So, it helps the children, it helps us, and and then the parents feel like you said, they come and one day they'll come to you, running to you and hugging you and thanking
Yes.
you for helping them, and not only the child but even them because it's not just teaching the child. They learn something in the process, and now they're feeling better, and they can pass it on to even the next adult or another mom who's struggling or something like that, but doesn't want to reach out, because maybe she's feeling frustrated and ashamed or something like that. So you never know where the ripple's gonna spread, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
what advice would you give to educators or caregivers who want to support children's speech and language development? What is one big um advice or something you want to give them?
I had about 15 things flash through my mind. And so I'm going to pick one. I'm going to say remember that communication happens all of the time, even when you're not talking with them. You are communicating something to them. So, your intentionality about what it is you want to communicate about or the message you want to communicate is important. And that when you know what you're working on or what your child needs to work on, that's the only time you can be intentional. So, to learn what they need and become aware of where you're at and what they need is all part of being able to be intentional.
Wow. Golden nuggets right there. Um, so the name of the podcast is Rise and Thrive Mornings with Intention. How important do you think it is to set intention first thing in the morning for the rest of the day or week?
Oh, that's a good question too. I actually, I've been doing this practice for a little while now, like a few years, where I won't allow myself to get out of bed in the morning until I feel happy. So if I wake up with an attitude that is, oh no, about something, I stay there and become grateful. Think about things that I'm grateful for until I feel it in my body, and then I get out of bed. Now, this practice was something that somebody else taught me, and I thought that can't hurt me a bit. I will say that it's really actually changed me. It's changed me so that now when I feel overwhelmed, or even if I've had too much caffeine, if my coffee's too strong, I don't tolerate really, really strong coffee sometimes. Starbucks always does this to me if I have a Starbucks. But so whether it's anxiety from caffeine, or if it's the busy of the day, or overly hungry, I mean, there's so many things that can trigger us, right? Now I have an anchoring point because I can go right back to, okay, I can do this just like first thing in the morning. And I can take a deep breath and just think, and I can create calm across my body much, much quicker. It used to be, well, I don't know, it used to be like not in my control. But now I would say that usually I can do it within 5 seconds, sometimes 10
Wow.
seconds, usually. But it's a practice. It is every day to be able to create that. And it's an intentional practice to be able to create calm, because I tend to put too much on my plate, like so many of us entrepreneurs. We put too much on our plate and we can't accomplish it at the end of the day. And then you feel like, oh, I failed the day again because you didn't do too much. um, and overworking can create more problems. So, this practice has helped me to be able to let go and choose how many things I'm going to do in a day as well. It's kind of affected a lot of areas of life.
Wow, I love that. And it actually almost sounds like one of similar could be Dr. Joe Dispenza's morning
That,
routine.
yeah, that is one of my people I study. I've read several of his books, and yeah, someday I want to go to one of his retreats. It just sounds amazing.
Oh, me too. Yeah, right now I'm actually really big on Dr. Joe, and as I'm like, that sounds
Mhm.
familiar. That's what I do. He says, don't get out of bed until you change your and tune out your whatever you
I
want to
don't,
do.
I cannot say for sure that that's who I heard it from, because I listened to a lot of different people during that personal development. Like when I first started to change how I thought, I just drank in so many people's information that I can't tell you exactly who said what. It might have been him that said it. Either
Yeah.
way, it's good information. Yeah. And
Exactly, yeah. Because
yeah.
I know a lot of the teachers out there, like my mentors and Dr. Joe and Tony Robbins, a lot of them do talk about staying and really you know, taking that time in the morning to really embrace yourself and not just go rushing out and, embracing the world before you have time with yourself. And sometimes it's not easy, especially when you have like 3 or 4 kids wake up before you and they're like, oh, well, my time's out the window, right? But it's really important to set that time, either whether it's journaling or meditation, whatever you want to do. I think also it's very important. Yeah. So do you have a YouTube channel or how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way?
The best way is email. And my email is hello@thelanguageofplay.com.
Oh, easy
And
enough.
it is easy. And so, anybody can contact me through there. I have a podcast. The podcast is The Language of Play. And someday my website will be up, which is thelanguageofplay.com, but it's not up as of yet. Yeah,
All in
so
good time.
all in good time. And so right now, my YouTube channel consists of what my podcast host pushes over there, which means there's no video on it yet, but someday that'll come too. This is part of that journey, isn't it, to develop your business. You can't build it all in a day. And so I'm still building. And there's many things that aren't yet built that I intend to build. And
Exactly. So
it'll come in time.
exactly, all in divine timing, as I say. So thank you so much for being on our podcast, and I thank you so much to our listeners for tuning in. We will post all the information once again in this video, the websites, the links, and everything, so you can get in touch with us in case you need anything. And we do welcome you to reach out. Don't be scared, don't be shy. We're all here to help one another. So I hope you enjoy the show, and thank you so much. And I love to bring you back one day. Um, Dinalynn, to have another podcast with you because you have an amazing book coming out, but we'll leave that for another episode.
Thank you so much. This has been a joy to talk with you, Eva.
Thank you so much, and everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us.